In this Burnout Extra, I'm going to do an oil change on a 2018 Toyota Corolla LE with a 2.0 liter 4-cylinder engine. The first thing that you're gonna want to do is pop the hood and loosen the oil cap. That will allow the oil to drain faster once you have the drain plug out. So I'm gonna hop inside, pop the hood, and then remove that top filler cap. Next thing you'll need to do is jack up the car or get the car off the ground. Once you've done that, you want a metric wrench set for the oil drain plug. So I'm gonna go underneath right now, find the drain plug, show you where it is, and then we'll be able to loosen that and drain the oil from there. Once you're under the car, you're going to want to look for this piece right here, which is the oil drain plug. And you'll see that it's actually located right next to the oil filter, which is super convenient. But this here should be a 14mm wrench, and you can loosen that using this wrench. I use the circle side, and one trick I always like to do, if you attach another wrench at the end of that wrench, you can actually get more leverage on loosening this bolt. But once again, you should be able to just crack it to the left, and then loosen it with your hand from there. Now once you get close to it being all the way out, it will start to spill oil out of it. So we're gonna get ready with that. It's important to let the engine cool down, because if you touch this, you would burn yourself. Where right now this car's been sitting for about 15 minutes or so without the engine running, and that's important because the engine oil won't burn me when I'm taking the plug off and things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. After you've drained the oil out of the drain pan, you can then move on to the filter. Once again, it's actually right next to it, which is super convenient. And chances are you won't need a filter wrench. You should be able to just grab this by hand and turn it. However, there will also be oil inside this, so you just want to be careful of what comes out. Once you have the old filter out of the spot, you want to make sure two things. You want to make sure that the drain plug that you had out before, there's a little gasket or washer looking thing that goes on that. You want to make sure that that's stayed on, and when you go put it back in place, it's in the correct place. The second thing is you want to make sure that this ring around this oil filter comes out with the filter. You don't want it to be stuck to the spot where the filter threads on. But once you have those two things drained, you should be good to go to put in the new filter, which I'll grab right now. There's a couple things that I would do with the new filter before you put it on. One of those things being, I like to mark the date, today's date, which is the date of the oil change, as well as the current mileage on the car. And that allows whoever's doing the oil change next to see when the oil filter was last changed. Not every person or not every shop will change the filter every oil change. Sometimes they do every other. Regardless, I always like to leave the date and the mileage that is current to this day so that somebody can always reference that or look under the car and reference it if they need it there. And then the second thing that you want to make sure of is there's a little plastic cap that goes around this part here. You definitely don't want that on the filter because that will prevent the filter from filtering oil, which is the dead opposite of what you want it to do. So this has to be fully off before you actually install the filter. And then one more thing that I'm going to do as I'm putting the filter in is I'm gonna dab my finger in a little bit of old oil and actually rub it around this rubber seal. What that'll do is it'll allow it to tighten on more smoothly and not get stuck and ultimately be loose. So a little bit of lubricant will help it tighten on just tight enough where it's good to go from there. And like I said, you could just use a little bit of old oil just as a lubricant on that. You're gonna wanna put a little bit of oil just right around that ring. Doesn't have to be much at all. Just helps lubricate it when putting it in. And then you can thread this new filter on right here. And despite taking these off with a filter wrench sometimes, they actually don't need to be that tight. So what I like to tell people is if you can get one hand on it and tighten it the best you can with one hand, just about there. That's really tight enough. You don't need to even get, maybe if you have two hands with a little bit of a turn, but you don't want to strip the threads to that brand new filter inside it. So the best thing to do is just tighten it down the best you can with one hand, and hands tight is okay. From here, you want to take your 14mm wrench, make sure that your drain plug is all sealed. Once again, you don't want to strip that either. So what I did is I just took a wrench, and that wasn't even my full strength of pulling, but you want to make sure it's nice and tight to the point where nothing will leak out. I always like to clean around the plug, and then you're good to go. You can remove your drain pan, take your old filter out, and get ready to pour new oil in. So once those two things down bottom of the car are all tight, your drain plug and your oil filter, now it's time to add the new oil. Now with a filter change, the oil capacity for a 2.0 liter 4-cylinder engine will be 4.2 quarts. And without changing the filter, that just means that there's a little bit more oil in the system, and so that would be about 3.9 quarts. What I'm gonna do is add 4 quarts and then check it on the dipstick after running the engine for a little bit, and then probably add about 0.2 more right after that. But the key is add most of what the oil capacity is. So for this one, it's 4.2. So a good idea would be pour in 4.2, run the engine for about 15 seconds, and then after that, you wanna check the dipstick. It's key to check the dipstick afterwards, because that will just tell you if you poured in the right amount, or if you're a little bit low, then you just top it off and add a little extra. This car on a 4-cylinder 2.0 liter engine will take 0 weight 20, which is full synthetic oil. So it's gonna take 4.2 quarts of this, and obviously I changed the filter as well. After you've completed putting in about 4.2 quarts into the engine, then you should be good to go. At this point, you can remove whatever funnel you were using and make sure to put this oil filler cap back on the top there. But like I said, that's all for doing an oil change on a 2018 Toyota Corolla. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like button, definitely subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to get notified when we post videos just like this all the time. And if you want to learn more about the cars that you see on our channel, you can go to burnoutshow.com. There will be a tab that says Fleet, and you can learn all about our cars and what we've done to them. As far as when they've broken down, parts we've bought, and different repairs we've done in the past, there's a whole Fleet section that will explain the different cars that we own and what we do to them. So once again, hopefully you found this helpful. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next time.